Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and it's been a couple of days since Murder Castle Nathria went live, and I've gone through all my resources, Twitter, HS Replay, all sorts of different sites to compile 5 decks in both Standard and Wild that you can take and reasonably expect to climb, whether it's getting to Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, or even Legend for the first time. But I will say right away, do not craft anything unless you are absolutely certain you want to try these decks. There's very likely going to be a balance patch in the next couple of weeks, and one of these decks could get destroyed by that. You never know. I thought I'd recommend 5 decks for each format that you can give a go and give kind of a description of how it all works. Deck codes are in the description below. You can always check out. So starting off with Standard, I think you know I gotta recommend some Imp Warlock. Imp Warlock has been an absolute dominant presence on ladder, really carried hard by the new location Vile Library, which gives +1/+1 to a friendly minion, repeats for each imp you control. So you play this on 2, you play Fiendish Circle, you just buff up either one of these imps to be like a 5/5, or buff up, say, your new 1-drop in here, Flustered Librarian, this card that gets bigger with each imp, and basically it's unkillable killing machine. You basically also never run out of cards. You have Impending Catastrophe, which just for 2 mana alone draws a card, not the worst in the world, but if you have any more imps, you repeat. So this can draw 8 cards on a full board of imps. There's a payoff card of Imp King Rafam, the new legendary fuse for 5, gives your imps +2/+2, ridiculous board presence, and you also have Mischievous Imp, which just refills the board. You have so many different board refills, card draw, and there's even now text for the mirror where you can Grimoire of Sacrifice and clear a board, or get some Sea Giants out if the board is really wide. The deck is strong, it's counterable, but it's definitely a very fast, very good deck, and if you're playing at lower ranks, you are going to obliterate the competition. Next, we have the next most popular deck out there, Skeleton Ping Mage. There is a variant I've noted by Theo, who hit top 10 legend on EU just today, that's more minion based, but I'm going to highlight the more popular hero power variant that has the hero power synergies of Wildfire. You have Mordresh as well as Dawngrass, but it has all the new skeleton cards like Kel'Thuzad, which fills the board, and if there's, well, the board's full, you blow up your opponent with even more skeletons. Lady Nazjar is finally seeing some play, basically some life gain. With all the frost spells, it gains armor, which is really strong. You need to stay alive while playing this deck. Strongest card probably in the deck, honestly, is Nightcloak Sanctum. 3 mana, has 3 uses, and you get to freeze a minion, summon a 2/2 skeleton, you get to neutralize a threat every second turn and generate threats. It's just a really strong deck. You have Brandon here to duplicate some of your battle cries. It's a solid deck. It is super fun to play. I don't think it's oppressive or dominant, but people are really enjoying it, and this is a version you probably can't go wrong with, as multiple people have hit top 10 legend with it. Next, we have the other third class. I don't know, I'll show my stats on my legend climb. I only face basically 3 classes in like 20 games climbing to legend, and Druid is the other part of the equation, and this is not alignment, this is just ramp Druid. It is a Prince Renathal deck, so you have 40 health, 40 cards. You have new cards in here like Natural Causes, it's just cheap removal, it gives you board presence, Planted Evidence, which can discover a spell. I had somebody discover a 5 mana Scales of Onyxia, and that was pretty darn good. Yeah, you just basically want to ramp up, get your guff online, get Denathrius pumped up with your Topior being active and all the rushers that come off of that, Scales of Onyxia, and then boom, you could just brand for insane damage and just do all sorts of broken stuff. You even have Flipper Friends in here to help buff up your Denathrius as well. This deck is very vulnerable to aggro, but pretty much crushes any mid-range or slower strategy. It can still beat aggro decks with a good draw, and that's why there's so much early game in here to try and stay alive to the aggression. Next, we have a deck I hit legend with a pretty darn good win rate, I think around 70%. Wildseeds Big Hunter. This deck is an absolute blast to play. It's a Prince Renathal deck. It's got the big beast package of like your Harpoon Gun, King Crush, Hydrolodon, but there's a lot of new cards in here. Almost all the Wildseeds cards. The new legendary isn't in here. The version I played did have it, but there's board space issues. But Wild Spirits is incredibly strong. You play this, it's very good. You have a ton of early game with good 1-drops that you can buff up with Doggy Biscuit, but basically you want to curve out with your 1-drops, your 2-drops, dictate the board, try and cheat out a big beast. You have Tavish in here. You even have Huntsman Ultimar, which has been a really good card. I won a lot of games with that final push of getting that basically called the Wild. This deck does a great job of beating up on Warlock and Mage. I only lost to one Warlock in my entire Legend climb and didn't lose to a single Mage. Druid, on the other hand, it's rough, it's tough, you gotta get out there really quick, try and get a big scam, but overall, this deck is the most fun I've had playing. The only sad thing is it doesn't have the Rat King. The Rat King's not in here, but really, really good deck that utilizes Castle Kennels really well. This location, really solid, and that's why Blade Master's in here. You hit that with your location, you got a full board clear on basically any 3/3 imp out there. And lastly, for standard, I'll leave off with Wig Priest. It didn't get a ton of new cards, but it's doing incredibly well with the best numbers at High Legend thus far. The biggest addition to the deck is Pelagos, which is as busted as advertised. Basically, it makes your Serpent Wigs basically like an inner fire on any minion. You can create just giant boards. You have the new location in here, Cathedral of Atonement. The snowball effect of this deck is incredibly strong. The only issue with it is once you fall behind, you're kind of toast unless you can recover with like a big Blade Master. But you even have in here the new Partners in Crime, which again, you play this, you buff it up a bunch, and you're getting 2 copies of whatever giant statted minion you got. If you're looking to go a little bit more off meta compared to the other 3 classes that I've been seeing, Wig Priest is looking pretty solid. For Wild, things honestly haven't changed a lot, but I'll try and highlight some decks that people have had some decent success with, and then we'll leave off with the, you know, the really broken stuff. So Secret Mage seems to be back. They got all these new cards like Anonymous Informant, Sketchy Stranger, which can give you secrets from another class, as well as Chatty Bartender is probably the best new card in here, which just gives you a free consecration if you have secrets up. Also have the new legendary Orion Mansion Manager, which can be almost impossible to kill, but basically it's the same old Secret Mage that cheats out secrets, cheats out Cabal Crystal Runner, burns your opponent with Cloud Prince, and just tries to disrupt the hell out of your opponent. Very good deck. Not the most new thing in the world, but it definitely has a bit of a new flavor if you want to try it out. We also have Wild Imp Warlock, which is basically a hybrid of Imp Warlock and Discard Warlock. You have Malchezaar's Imp in here, which is just a card draw engine. You still have the new location. You have Rafam, which has some anti-synergy with Hand of Gul'dan. I don't know how much I like this list. You might want to ditch Rafam, but then again, you might not, but just because of how it works with Expire Merchant. But overall, just get an early board either with Flame Imps, your Flustered Librarians, buff it up with just, you know, the broken location with Fiendish Circle, Mischievous Imp, and this deck is very aggressive, very fast, even faster than the standard version. It's just Wild's a whole different playground, but I think you will have some success with this one. Even Shaman has seen success because it got so much totem support. This is very similar to what I played in Theory Crafting that did very well. You have the new cards in here like Carving Chisel, the Stone Right, Gigan Totem, which you can cheat out, and well, that's what you're trying to do. Get a bunch of totems on the board, buff them up with your Totemic Might, your Totemic Surge. You can copy stuff with Splitting Axe, including this gigantic totem, which is pretty nuts, and a lot of decks can't deal with that early board, and you're just going to kill people with a lot of big angry totems, and it's doing quite well. Multiple players getting decent ladder placements with it. All right, and the last 2 decks are pretty disgusting, but really, really good. I will mention I'm not including Big Priest because I can't be that evil, but yes, Big Priest seems to be doing well with cheating out Neptulon. I just can't do that. I can only go so evil. So Alignment Druid, basically Togwoggle Druid, but you have the other win condition here of Sire Denathrius. Super good because you have Floop's Gloop, which is just as broken as ever with Celestial Alignment, where you play Gloop and you just gain 1 billion mana back, and all that mana that you're getting back with your Flipper friends here and your Scales of Onyxia and your Raid Boss are all pumping up your Sire Denathrius and letting you just do the most gross stuff. And yes, this deck is pretty nasty. It's a Prince Renethal. You don't even bother with Oaken Summons, and it's viable, it's good, it's gross. If you want to try it out, give it a go. I've actually played it a bit. I even used this Theo Tar to steal someone's Shudderwalk. Please don't cancel me. And lastly, we have Pirate Rogue. Pirate Rogue's just really good. Nothing really new here. No real new cards. You just play your pirates, you equip Swordfish, you go face, you kill people. It's nothing all that new, but I gotta recommend it. It's still doing really well at really high ranks, including a high legend. And it's, you know, it's a good chance you have a lot of these cards already. Just know that Pirate Rogue is really still good. But Wild, again, it just hasn't shifted a lot. It's mostly just the same old, but I try to throw in a little bit of spice. So there you go. Those are 5 decks in Standard Wild that you can take and expect to climb with. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.